to the computer. And we'd like this to be an interactive evening, which means um, asking questions, sharing experiences. That would be brilliant. I'm not going to do any breakout rooms or anything like that. But I just think if people are willing to share any experiences or if they're willing to ask questions, that would be wonderful. And just remember, when you ask questions, you're probably asking the question that other people wanted to ask, but were maybe a bit shy to ask. So you're not only doing yourself a favour in getting the answer, you're also helping other people as well. And then when they hear the answers, and this is hopefully, when they hear the answers, it may be answering a question that they didn't even know they wanted to ask, but they get an answer to. There's a confusion loop for you. So this evening, we're going to be really talking about building your therapy business and the really sort of basic stuff that comes up, and giving it from maybe a little bit of an alternative viewpoint at times. Not too alternative, but stuff that speaks to both myself and you, and in the way that we are working with our own therapy businesses, not our therapy business club, but when we actually work with clients and when we attract clients, because the thing is that we do both have an active practice as well as helping therapists market themselves. So we're kind of like we're in the trenches as well, and so we're going to look at such things as identifying your ideal client, crafting your client statement, looking at things like different service delivery options that are out there, pricing strategies, and building up your experience and your confidence. So a lot of stuff. Hopefully we'll cover it all. What I'll also have for you at the end is a custom chat GPT that I've created, which is all about writing transformative stories. Because if you think about it, when you actually talk to someone and you apply logic, you're just telling them. But when you tell a story, you're selling them. And stories are so powerful because they emotionally connect people. And with this ChatGPT, you'll be able to actually put in something like, say, a testimonial that you've had from a client, and it will turn it into a bit of a story that you can use as being something that you might say, well, this is a version of a case study. Or you might say, I've written this story as a way of conveying the work that I do. So I'm not suggesting that you actually lie to anybody or anything like that. I'm just saying that storytelling is a very, very powerful way of getting your message across and conveying an awful lot about you, who you are, what you do, how you do it, without having to go through all that boring stuff of telling them about hypnotherapy, the neural pathways and all that stuff that your clients, to be honest, really don't give a damn about, because all they want is to be fixed. They come from a selfish place, and which is natural. They're in pain, they're suffering, something's going on, and they just want some help. So I'm not really interested in how it happens. They just want to be reassured that they're in good hands. And so that's really the introduction to it. And so I thought we'd start it off by talking about really identifying who your ideal client is. And Ewan, do you want to sort of wade in and just say how you see this as being sort of attracting your ideal client? What's your perception of it?
Well, as my practice has evolved, my experience and confidence has evolved. I suppose right now, my sort of ideal client could fill many niches actually. At the start, if we put that as a reference, I had a number of anxiety issues in my life and confidence issues that I found hypnotherapy really helped me with. That's how I got into hypnotherapy. Also, non-smoking was a way that I was helped by hypnotherapy as well. And as well as a fear of wasps. So Hypnotherapy was a very powerful means for me, actually, to get free of a number of things that I'd suffered from chronically for years. So that was one of the things that attracted me. But I just seemed to relate to people who had anxiety issues, which is essentially a worry about a future event that statistically is highly likely to happen. But if you suffer or have know people suffer from anxiety, it's a real thing. So I thought that's where I can best help people. So that's where my marketing initially was, with those sort of emotional needs, because it's just such a huge felt need in many people. Many people worrying about what's going on in the world, relational issues, finances. It just seemed a good place to start for me, Kev, rather than try to offer everything to everyone. Is that niching? Well, I'm not sure it is, because I've gone beyond that now. But I think it really helped me just to focus on a couple of things at first, to get confidence,
Mm.
to get experience. If you've been through training, you've done practice room stuff, and then you're in the real world, and you're sort of putting yourself under pressure to get clients as soon as possible. It's a real felt pressure, and we'll talk more about that, I'm sure. But that's the way I started, was simply to put myself out there as someone who knew what people were feeling in regard to a couple of things, engaging people on those things, getting valuable experience and confidence in the process, and getting paid for it, of course. And that's how I began. So I identifying where needs are out there, who could I best help, what are some of the common struggles that people are facing. There are some niche areas, of course, in hypnotherapy, as there are in any therapy. But if you're wondering where to really start, or to try and build those early months, or perhaps the first 6 months to 12 months of a year, it may help you, if you've come from somewhere that you've been helped through therapy, to start right there engaging, as I did. And I found that it helped me to get my feet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I've got a question there, which I mean that is very much how I started. I went with what I already knew, um,
Yeah.
and also looking at where you've got some success. I'm just going to put a little question for you all in the chat. If you just have a look at the chat, um, there's a question there: who am I already equipped to help? And by nature of my experience and my interests, are what lights me up inside. So
Mm.
what excites you? Because if something doesn't excite you, then there's a message. That's a feeling. And if you're having feelings about things, then certainly pay attention to them because they are great signposts. And I was talking to a hypnotherapist and they said, "Oh, I want to earn loads of money." I've heard that one before. And I'm like, "Is that all you're focused on?" "Yeah, I don't care what I do. I just want to earn loads of money." So I said, "Well, I know two hypnotherapists in the world who have earned millions just doing quit smoking. But that's all they did. They didn't do anything else apart from help their wife um, through cancer and pain relief. But all they did was sell quit smoking patches, and they loved it because that's all they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it was even branded as being the stop smoking guy. He had a big van with that written on, and that's it. And he earned millions over the years of doing that, and he was busy.
Yeah,
He
I
had
mean, you made a good point there, Kev, because in hypnotherapy, it can help so many different quote unquote conditions. It's just so many options.
mm,
So if something doesn't resonate for you, you don't need to do that. I'm trying to think of things that I'm not particularly interested in. I don't do no smoking sessions, even though it was one thing that helped me. I've done one, it
mm,
worked, but it doesn't. I don't know what it is. It doesn't appeal to me. So we don't have to chase things within hypnotherapy, for example, that it doesn't make us come alive. I think that's the point here. What gets you excited? Because if you've got passion and experience and expertise on your side, then that really does go a long way to, for longevity in staying in
mm.
therapy. Hmm.
Another question you can ask yourself is what originally inspired you to become a practitioner? Because it might have been that you become a practitioner because you had hypnotherapy or some kind of therapy yourself, and you just saw the magic in it, and that inspired you. So if that's what inspired you, and you might have given up, a career. You might have taken a kind of U-turn on whatever it was that you were doing because he was inspired to do it. There's a sign as well. Whatever originally inspired you to become a practitioner holds a bit of a key there because it was enough to make you commit yourself. And that is a huge thing because you can imagine all the things that are dangled in front of us every day, all the opportunities. And yet, one thing actually got you to go and study, enter into this Harry Potter world of therapy that you thought, oh, what am I actually letting myself in for? And you probably, I mean, some of you are smiling, but some of you have probably got some real criticisms from partners and relations and stuff like that, thinking, you're doing what? Does that really work? So all that misbelief, and yet you managed to power through that and do your studies because you felt inspired. And so, and another thing to look at as well is, were there any of your own experiences um, as a client that deepened your understanding of life? Because I know I did. I went for hypnotherapy when I was studying counselling. And luckily, my counsellor, the person I used to have to receive counselling because of my counselling course, she was also a hypnotherapist. And I went to see her on my last session. And she says, have we got a session? I'm like, yeah, I want to pay for another session. And she was like, oh, what do you want? I said, I know you do hypnosis. I want you to hypnotize me to make me realize that my brain has an exponential ability to store information. And she was like, oh, I'll have to work on that script. She went, so you don't want fixing or anything? I went, no, I want expanding. I want expansion. And when I saw the expansion that gave me, and I've still got the script here somewhere, it's really simple. It's only a A4 page. I was blown away because a switch went in my brain. I mean, she only basically turned on something that was already there, but that really helped. And the other thing is, who do you feel naturally drawn towards helping? We've all got a natural draw where we're drawn towards helping certain people, certain things. So what I would say is be aware that those are signposts coming from your own wisdom. Don't ignore them because they're really, really powerful signposts and they will help you and they'll reduce the amount of suffering in this journey. I guarantee it. And we all know there's plenty of suffering in that journey. So we've got a few people sharing some stuff here. Let's have a look. So we've got I got into it because it's bloody cool. Okay, Annette, thanks. Um, so helping people, women, solopreneurs break through their income plateau to double their monthly income, recurring income. Wow, that sounds absolutely amazing. So look how diverse that is, and overcoming obstacles, stress, anxiety, limited beliefs, enjoy helping people gain something, sports achievements. That's what lights you up there, and helping people reduce performance anxiety. So wonderful. That is great. Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody feel stuck and got any questions about, you know, finding their ideal client? Just unmute yourself and you don't have to put your hand up.
I did a fair amount of work with ChatGPT, looking for my ideal client, the person who is most likely to come find my services,
Hmm.
and just sort of like I started off asking ChatGPT to look at the demographic of where I lived,
Ah, right. Okay. I was going to say, where did you start
and
geographically?
and then sort of like what sort of person lives in this area, predominantly middle class professionals, etc., etc., and sort of like of these people, what concerns might they have? I can't remember the words I put. I put something around what concerns might they have, what difficulties might they have, and it came back with anxiety and stress, work stress, and it gave me a list.
So it give you some reference points based
Yeah.
on a good bit of data, and that also, and I know you use ChatGPT a lot. It's also extracting a fair bit of what you've already input into it as well, I guess.
Yes, it must
Yeah,
have.
yeah, yeah. So that's a good, if you've never used it before and you start using it from scratch, then obviously it won't have gathered a lot of data on you. But once you have, and I know Annette does use it, then it will also be pulling from that because it'll know you. I mean, you could even say, based on everything that I've ever put into this, what do you think? Who do you think would be my ideal client? Now, don't take it as gospel because you got to go with the feeling as well. We've got to rely on that instinct because that instinct is really powerful. But if you've got a bit of a hunch about something, an instinct, and then you want to just test it against AI and ask it some questions, am I in the right geographical location to be offering these services, or am I just going to need to work online and that kind of thing? That just gives you a little bit of a, don't get too reliant on it. Um, we really want to, we're living in an age where people are using AI. I do all the time. But at the same time, let's not lose touch with our feelings, our gut feelings, our instinct as well. Um, having a healthy balance, I think, is really, really important on that. So anything else coming up for anybody? Any questions about, you know, finding your ideal client? Hi, Sue.
My worry is not having a portfolio already of apart from your own experiences and stuff that's worked for you and things that really resonate.
Mm.
If someone asks, well, what other uh, stuff qualifies you to help me with that, then I haven't got a big portfolio of,
Okay,
you know.
here's a question. How many people here, if you want to put your hand up, how many people here have actually done a discovery call and anyone ever said to them, what qualifies you to help me do this? So that's maybe a limiting belief, Sue, that they're going to put you on the spot and say, what qualifies you to do this? The fact that you offer it qualifies you to do it.
I've been doing this for over 10 years and I've never been asked, not once.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, it just comes to mind then. I just, you worry. So that's and I don't mean this in a negative way. That's just an insecurity. Yeah.
It's my niche.
Which is,
Overthinking.
which is very natural,
Yeah.
to, be a bit concerned about it. What qualifies me to offer this? Well, the fact that you've turned up and you've put all that time into your study and the dedication and the love and the passion that you got for it is qualifications in my mind.
That is true. I am committed to my client,
Mm.
100%.
Then you're qualified then. There
Yeah.
you go.
Thank
And
you.
and then you get results and then you get testimonials and then people see those testimonials and your confidence builds and everything just expands from there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. But it's a good point, a very good point, and a very common point that I'm sure a lot of people have felt, what qualifies me to be able to do this. Anything else for anybody else coming up before we kind of move on to the next little bit about crafting the client statement? Okay, so crafting the client statement, really it is about saying, you know, who you help and the result that they get and how you do it. The how you do it is really the hypnotherapy. So I'm just going to give a little example and then you can see the kind of formula because it's really simple. I'm just going to pop that in the chat. A simple example is I help people struggling with stress find more peace through grounded, simple hypnotherapy. So I help people struggling with stress. So there's the problem. And that's generalizing people struggling with stress. I'll give you another one here that I've got. And this one's a little bit more specific, as you'll see. I help overwhelm professionals in reconnecting with clarity using calm, focused sessions. If they're getting all stuck. And then another one typically would be something like, and this is quite niche if you're working with creatives, I help stuck creatives move forward through mindset work that feels natural and empowering. So it's like three components. If you look at that, I mean, you might want to copy and paste them. But there is a little sort of, let's say, a little formula. And you could put this into ChatGPT and ask it to do this for you. So I'm just looking at my other screen. So there's the formula. I help. Who do you help? Experience a result. What result? And how do you do it? So that's a really simple way. When I see people's kind of the sort of client attraction statement that people do, it's like War and Peace sometimes. And it's like, I do this, and I da 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 da, and it's like, yeah, that's a bit too long. Try and keep it as simple as possible. And I think there's a book called, what's it called now? Pitch Anything or something like that. Anyway, it says the way you tell people what you do is as though you were having a 10-second conversation with an old friend at a railway station, and your train's just pulled into the station and the doors, it's about to leave. And you bump into this old friend from school. I haven't seen him for 30 years, and they'll say, John, how are you doing? I'm doing great. What do you do now? And that's what comes out of your mouth. And you have to run and get on the train. And you just have to come up with something that you've rehearsed. And so that when people are, if you're at a network meeting or something like that, and people say to you, oh, so Kev, what do you do? And then, so I would say what I did. And that is it. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. Because the idea is a conversation then continues. And don't be so wedded to these things. You can change them as much as you like. You can test out different ideas. But what you're doing is you're actually speaking to real human needs, not in clinical terms. You're adding in some warmth there about what you do. And it's not about sounding impressive. Warmth is so important when it comes to communicating what we do and crafting that sort of client statement. And that's obviously all about, attracting the right clients if we're communicating in what we're doing. It's not like we've got the white coat on and we're, the specialist, and, we've got to build that warmth, that rapport. And them statements will really help you do that. Anybody got a really, really cool sort of client statement that they'd like to share? And you could just speak it out or put it in the chat. Or any questions about sort of crafting that client statement? Anything you're not sure about? Hi, Michael.
I do.
Okay, we'll take
Hello.
Michael first,
Yeah,
and then
hi. Yeah, I was just wondering and thinking back actually to kind of, identifying the ideal client. I was wondering if it's possible almost for your niche, if you like, to be too niche. So, for example, I was thinking about it because it's very early days for me, and I'm trying to think of things that I can draw on from my own experience. So,
Mm.
one of the things, about 8 years ago, I developed tinnitus, which is a really, unpleasant condition once it's
Yeah.
sort of set in. And it probably took me 2 to 3 years to really adapt to it. But then when I trained in hypnotherapy, it occurred to me that really I probably could have actually gone through that adjustment period much, much quicker. And I thought, I wonder if that would be worth doing as my, that is who I would actually work towards helping. And then, but then I thought, but is that sort of so minuscule an area that I mean, I would be working online. That's not a problem. I'd be happy to do that. I wouldn't be worried about the geography, for example. But it made me think in terms of this, I'm sure I'd be able to get a statement together. But do you think it's just too limiting in itself, too tiny?
Ewan, what do you think?
I don't think so. I think anything that just gets you out there on the road, connecting, building rapport, and helping people, Michael, is an invaluable thing. Tinnitus is actually a very, it's a serious condition. Many people are experiencing it these days. You have the empathy to know what that feels like. You've got the skills to help people with. And I think you just need to step out into it. It does not mean for the rest of your career that you can't help other people, or they say, oh, look, there's Michael. He's the tinnitus guy, isn't he? Well, you can't help me with this. People don't think that way. I think just to break ground doing something, and the fact you've identified it, you've been through an experience, tells me already you already feel a sort of draw to
Mm.
working with that people with that condition. That to me would suggest the perfect place to start. And it certainly doesn't limit you or put you in that for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
I mean, in terms of hypnotherapy, it's no more difficult or less difficult than anything else, really, is it? But I think it's selective enough that you could establish yourself with a bit of authority in that without really cramping on your style and anything else, and get you out there just doing therapy, learning, earning, helping people, and go from there. So it seems you've
Yeah,
identified
thank
if you
you.
wanted to craft a statement around that, whatever that is, um, do that because I think that would be a very good exercise. You want to offer the result. What's life going to be like without tinnitus for people? What does that do?
Mm.
No one wakes up and thinks, I'd really love coaching for my bad hearing, do they? Or I want therapy. We don't use these words. What is the result that when you had that, or when people have that, and they're just screaming for relief from that, what words are they using for the
Mm.
change they want in their life? If you can articulate that in a statement, and these are just statements, they help us identify who we want to work with. They help with our marketing to be, on point, not waffly, but they're not in and of themselves the definition of our life, are they? But they're a good starting point. So thanks for bringing that up, Mike, because I
Mm.
think that's a very good example of starting somewhere, getting momentum, getting experience, and feel like you're making a difference.
And
Thank you very much.
it touches all the points that we mentioned at the beginning about, what resonates with you. What is your
Mm.
experience? What inspired you? All of those yeses. I think you kind of have your answer there, and it'll come up later or it might not. But the whole thing of, oh, should I niche? Or should I just be general? Whoever said you had to choose? It's written down nowhere that you had to choose whether to be niche or to be general. Who said that? No one said that. It's kind of like it's almost like a myth that's out there. You can do what the hell you want, whatever suits you. And it might be with a certain group of people, you're known as being that person who helps with that. But then, you also pick up business elsewhere. It doesn't mean that it's defining you. And I think it's only our own limiting thoughts that might make us worry that, oh, they're just going to see me as being the person who does that. They see you as being a helper, they see you as being a therapist. And if your website and your social media is set up properly, then you're not saying, I only work with people with this condition. They're seeing you as being somebody who's a therapist, and that has a kind of an umbrella appeal as well to people. And if they're unsure, they'll ask. And you can tell stories and convey that you've worked in other areas with people of other things. So you can convey that as well in your messaging. You've got control of the frame. Imagine, it's a frame that you're working with, and you have complete control of what appears in that frame. And don't worry about spending a bit of time being quite specialised in your approach to things. I think it's a great thing to do, and
Thanks very much.
yeah, I recommend it. Right, we had somebody else was going to say something, and now all my screens moved around because I can't remember who it was. So let's have a look. Was it
It was
George?
me.
Georgia? Hi, Georgia.
Um, so I've got my I help statement, but it doesn't have the how. Do I need to add that on there? So mine is I help client-based women solopreneurs break through their income plateaus to double their monthly recurring income. Adding the how, I think if I added the how, whether it be one of those two examples you gave at the bottom or not, would I don't want people to think this is strategy because that statement is usually coming from a business coach. I
Okay.
don't do strategy. Mine is from the mindset side of things. Get rid of the emotional, the negative emotions, the limiting beliefs that are holding us back from moving forward, making decisions, overthinking, perfectionism,
Yeah.
all that. So would do you think it would help me to put something like the through calm focus sessions or through mindset work that feels natural and
Hmm.
empowering? Would that
Yeah.
help make it more, let them know without me having to explain to them every single
Absolutely.
time that this is not strategy? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. You can indicate what it is by words like you say, mindset. Focus. You can use the words that suit your audience. That's the main thing. But I think just to complete the story, that it's not using electrodes or witchcraft or, basically, putting them in a flotation tank. There want some specifics in there, but you can be artfully vague as well at the same time. So I
Okay.
think it does help because then it gets rid of what we call the objections. Well, how's she going to do that? Well, I don't know how she's going to do that. And all of a sudden, they're stepping away. Whereas if you create something that's curious, then they're gonna be moving more towards what you're offering. But yeah,
Okay.
it's good to complete that loop as it was, so that we don't want people to have doubts. That's the last thing we want because
Right.
doubts are obviously are not drawing people towards us. They're making a gap, and people hate gaps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but great question,
Thanks.
Kerry. Was you going to ask something?
Yeah, so I was just going to say, when you use obviously social media like Instagram, Facebook, etc., and you've got to put in your tagline, would you just ask ChatGPT to rewrite that I help statement as a Facebook tagline, or would you just use it exactly as it is, or would you ask it to give you alternatives?
Well, I would say go with your what you feel is going to be best serving you. Yeah, I really
Yeah.
would. I'll just say what feels right. And I know I talk about that word a lot, what feels right, but I really think that, it's important that we look at it and go, oh, I'm happy with that.
Mm,
I'm happy with it. It feels congruent. It's that congruence.
yeah,
If it's aligned with who you are and what you do, then whether it's written on the side of a banner coming off the back of an aeroplane, or if it's on Facebook or whatever, it's communicating who you are, what you do, how you do it.
perfect.
So
Thank
yeah,
you.
I just go with what feels comfortable. Yeah.
And it'll evolve over time. This isn't a
Hmm.
10-year statement. So as things develop, redo it. You'll see what people are biting on. It's just avoiding trying to be over clever. The result at the front, that's what we're talking about. So it's very clear. What's good about these statements is it sort of, if there's certain people you don't want to work with, it eliminates that as well and acts as a filter, which
Yeah.
is extremely useful too.
Yeah. If you're saying that you're working with, CEOs, then, you're very, very specific about who you're working with. And the CEOs are going to be thinking, oh, they're speaking to me. So all of this is marketing is communication. And it's clear, it's about clarity. That's a really important thing about these things is that it's not leaving doubt, it's creating lots of clarity with people, and that's what we want to do with our marketing. Because let's face it, it's not cheap to do marketing. I don't mean as in cost. I mean the amount of effort. It takes a lot of effort to do marketing. So that's going to be, make sure it's efficient in the way that you're communicating. Do you want to start us off on the next one, Ewan, on the service delivery side of things?
Yeah. Sorry, I have to get my glasses on and off. Yeah, so this essentially is, how we go about delivering our therapy. There are many options of this, of course. We're currently in the group setting on Zoom now. So group sessions are a way for us to help a number of people at the same time. It might be something that fills you with trepidation, preferring to do one-on-one sessions, which is where I began. I think where most people actually begin. So let's start there. It's obviously the most natural thing to do. doesn't seem as intimidating. You can do it in person, you can do it online. I would say, if you're just trying to find your feet in the therapy world, it's probably the most intuitive place to start as well, because you can build rapport, I think, very quickly with an individual rather than a big group. I mean, in a group, you can be anonymous, but I've done a lot of one-to-one sessions and I really enjoy them. I'm very much a people person. I like to hear what's going on in people's lives. So, and again, your marketing message can reflect that when you're talking about, your client statement, talking to individuals. If it was to a group or in a corporate setting, obviously your client statement would reflect that as well. But I began by just offering one-to-one face-to-face sessions with people in my village. Some of it was free, some of it was paid, and can't write that off. I know we're living at a time where you can do a lot of stuff online. I do. But you may feel a bit more comfortable just getting out and about, being with people, family, friends, people you know at work, just, inviting them for individual sessions again to get experience, to build your confidence and skill set. So that is one setting, and that's often the setting people think of, the one-to-one. But if you really want to scale up your business or add an extra stream of income revenue to your business, which is what you want to do if you want to be a long-term therapist, is, this idea of group sessions. If you can get 10 people who are really struggling with fears about the future, anxiety, in other words, on a session, you only need to deliver one session, paid session, instead of delivering 10 individual sessions. So it's economic in terms of time, but it's just 10x your revenue. And again, it might not be something that you'd entertain right at the beginning, but why not? I mean, I'm not making any rule here. You may feel, I could do that, I could try that. Maybe for you, maybe that's an easier way to ease into getting more experience, just to do a group setting. You may be in a management position at work, not quite yet on the way as a therapist, and so you have access to a group setting. It may be that your company is able to set up some sort of group therapy, performance enhancement at work, for example, confidence, how to communicate better, positivity, those sorts of things. So groups, individuals, out and about, where you are, which is what I love to do. I'm going to set up in a couple of weeks' time a sort of a village hall setting. Whoever comes along, comes along. I'm not sure what to expect in my little rural village. But why not? I know there's need, and it's often, talked about when I'm out and about. People say, "Oh, yeah, you do hypnotherapy, don't you?" Yeah, yeah, yeah. And, just put your ear to the ground, and it's amazing what comes up in private conversations with people. And I use those things, not in my little black book. I don't have anything like that, but I just bear that in mind. I think, oh, this village is up for it. So let's try and do something there. So those are probably the places where I would start. And I think a lot of people do start where they feel most comfortable. We're always talking about getting an edge. We don't need to make this difficult for ourselves. If there's an easier way to do something, I'm all for it. And if you're comfortable just getting a group session together, that's great. Kev runs a thing called, and I always forget this, what's it called? Mind Soothe. Which will allow
yeah.
you to, if you have an idea for a therapy approach, for example, let's just use the confidence one, and you're a bit intimidated about doing something group-wise, Mind Soothe is an excellent environment where, the marketing is done for and with you to get a group of 10 or 20 people on that event, and then you can deliver a session online. Get a feel, is this something I want to do as part of my practice? But it gives you a great confidence boost to realize I can do this. That wasn't that bad. And helping a number of people at the same moment. So that's something perhaps you want to talk to Kev about, Mind Soothe. Are most of you sort of engaging in the one-to-one sessions right now? Is that your standard sort of format? I'd be interested to see what your particular ratio is of groups or one-to-one. If you just want to leave that in the chat or just share now, just unmute yourself and give me a sense of where you are in this. What's working for you, for example?
Yeah, so we've got no groups, one-to-one, both. One thing I would say, and you touched on this about feeling comfortable, Ewan, what I would say to anybody just starting out, start where there is the least resistance for you, which is another way of saying where are you most comfortable. But where is the least resistance? But that could be the least resistance for communication, the least resistance for, actual time and commitment and all these things where you feel confident. And trust what feels simple and what feels true. So be trusting that. That's a great place to start. I did my first sessions in my local village hall. I framed it as mindset, relaxation, and in small lettering, hypnosis, because the average age is about 65 here. And I sold out within 24 hours. People were slipping £20 notes through my letterbox with their name written on in felt tip on. It's quite hilarious, actually. But I said it's limited to 12 people. It's for 6 sessions. It's super cheap. It was just to pay for the village hall hire. But I filled it. I actually got 13 because the last lot was a couple who wanted to come together. But it was great and I absolutely loved it. And the energetic presence of being in a group, in a room with people who I knew, I've been in the village about 4 years when I did it. But I knew some of the people because it's a small village. But it was really lovely. And my partner at the time said, how are you going to keep them all quiet? Because they all know each other. It'll be like a chicken farm listening to them all. They'll all be gabbing away. You won't be able to shut them up. And I said, I'm a hypnotist. I can shut them up. And I was thinking, shit, how am I going to shut them all up? Because she brought the point up, she created that insecurity in my mind. And what I actually did was I saw the people on the list who were coming and I knew who were friends with friends. And so I split them all up and they weren't sat next to each other. It was like being at school. So I did that. And the other thing I did was I put one of these on everybody's chair, which is a packet of tissues, a small packet of tissues on their seat next to their name. So everybody who came in, came in and picked up a packet of tissues and were looking at it. And I saw what it did. It made them go inside. And they went very, very kind of reflective. And anyway, they all sat down and they were all very well behaved. And I said, you're probably wondering why there's a packet of tissues on your chairs, aren't you? And they're kind of like, yeah. I went, well, when we go inside and we go quiet and we might be a bit reflective, sometimes it can bring out some emotions. And what I don't want you to do is to have to be messing around, struggling in your pockets, in your bag, or disturbing anybody else. So I bought you all a little packet of tissues because I care about you. And there was tears in the room. And I was thinking, I'm on a roll here. This is so easy. And it was a great night and I enjoyed it. And it was an hour and a half and it flew past. But that was where I felt least resistance. I felt comfortable. Actually sitting opposite somebody for real, that was really, really nerve-wracking. For me, that was really nerve-wracking. But in a group, it was kind of like, you're going to get some results, aren't you? I was edging my bets. But as I say, one-to-one, the pressure's on. Is it all going to work? But you can do group sessions, you can do, one-to-one sessions, in person, online, and it doesn't mean that it defines you. Just because what you go with to begin with doesn't define you in what you do forever. It just opens a door for you. That's it. All you're doing is opening doors. Now, if you're not opening any doors, don't expect anybody to come in. But if you're opening doors, you're making a start, and that's really about it. And your comfort levels will grow as your experience grows as well. You just got to get started. Just do it. That's the real sort of, that's the real thing. Somebody's asking what Mind Soothe is there. It's a free Facebook group. If you just search it, Mind Soothe, all one word, or send me a direct message. And I set it up as an event for you. Like this is an event in the Hypnosis Business Club. I set it up as an event for you. I do all the graphics for you. I write all the description for you. But what I do is I send you a jot form. You fill out the jot form with your Zoom link without a password. It says on there. You choose the date you want to do it. It's all there on the jot form itself. And then I set that all up for you. And I actually throw a little bit of cash at promoting it for you, just as a little bit of payback into the industry. And the other week we had was it Katerina did it, didn't she? And she had about 10 people on there, and she delivered a session, a guided visualization. She loved it, and everybody loved it. And we can record it. So that's how we do it. It's free.
Real boost to our confidence. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just another point in closing this particular thing. You might be tempted, if you've worked in the corporate world, you'll need an office for this. I'll need stationery. I'll need all this sort of stuff. Go easy on yourself. You don't need any of that. If you're on the call tonight, you're using technology that you can monetize. Zoom. That's what I do. I don't have a fancy office. Although recently I was offered by the village a room above the village hall for 15 quid a day. And I thought about that. I thought if I had a central place, then people knew if I was there on a Tuesday and a Thursday, there's a hypnotherapist in town. Sounds a bit like the circuses in town, isn't it? That actually would give me a base right in the center of the village. I'll have to think about that. But don't be thinking rent, contracts, leasing. None of us at that stage. And I don't think it's necessary to put stress into an office and all the overheads, because that money would be better spent on marketing and other things. If you're able to get online, great. That's all you need. If you've got a pair of legs and you want to walk into town or wherever and do in-person visiting, great. That's all you need. There are much better ways at this stage of the game to invest your money, I would say. So that's what I love about it. It's just anywhere in the world with anyone. That's the power of online therapy, isn't it? It's just absolutely wonderful.
I saw somebody delivering it in a tent at a music festival.
Well, baby or therapy? Therapy.
It's definitely therapy. But they had a little advert outside. £5 hypnotherapy. Step in this tent. The guy was all dressed to look the part,
like a wizard.
He had a queue.
Yeah.
And so imagine that taster session or whatever it was. He probably stuck their hands together and did some fun, because I could hear people laughing and things. And then people coming up. Next person was in, and he had a proper role. And I actually was working on a catering van with my friend. And as I went past him, I says, "You're having a ball, aren't you?" He went, "Oh, it's great fun." I wasn't actually a hypnotherapist at the time, but I just loved that whole kind of like showmanship, that turning up and above his little, it was like a little teepee, just above it there was this, and the door got closed as people went in, and people thought, "Oh, what is he doing in there?" And absolutely brilliant. What a great idea. They probably didn't even charge him to be there. Novelty factor. He probably offered to be there, and they said, "Oh yeah, come along, that'll be great." And he got a bit of money for his fuel. Think outside the box and have some fun with it, because it's such a fun thing to deliver, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of these local groups, Lions, maybe the Women's Institute. I've never been to a meeting, but they're always looking for speakers to speak on something that's engaging. That might be worth it. Just what local social groups meet in my area? Is there something that I could just introduce of an evening and talk about it?
And they pay you. Women's Institute pay you, because I've been and done a session. Not hypnosis. It was cheese making, but they actually paid me £70 to go and do a demonstration of cheese making at a Women's Institute. I'm like, wow.
And they'll talk, and details get passed on. Who knows where that leads?
I was getting orders. I didn't want orders.
Marriage propositions.
No. So let's look at pricing strategies now, because obviously that's something that people get really, really uncomfortable about. So the thing about pricing is it doesn't have to feel heavy. I know, when you first get started, it's kind of like, oh my God, how am I going to price? Do you know what? Some of the top hypnotherapists in the world, I've talked to some of them, and they're still uncomfortable about talking about money. Still uncomfortable about it. One of them said, "Well, my wife, she works in this job and she only gets paid £30 an hour. I feel really, really bad charging 75 because she's been to university for years and I've just done like a few little courses." And I'm like, how is that relative to anything? And it isn't, but that was just an insecurity. So I think, you're not charging for your time. You're not exchanging time for money. You're exchanging transformation.
Mm.
What is that transformation worth? And, you've got to trust that what you what you offer them is enough, and what they pay you in return is enough. It's kind of like that trusting, but it's got to feel right to you. There's no point in think, right, I'm charging £100, and then when it comes to somebody saying, how much do you charge, and you go £100, because they're going to language leaks. They're going to pick up all those insecurities. They're going to pick that up. So you have got to be absolutely 100% happy with what you're charging. And when you deliver that price, when you say that price, it's got to be delivered with conviction and commitment. And that's a duty of care, really, not only to you, but to them. They don't want to see somebody who's in some way not sure. Because what are you communicating when you do that? Especially when it comes to, a hypnotherapist's work. That kind of like, that's not really conveying the right message. If you're acting all a bit nervous and a bit coy about mentioning the price. There's nothing wrong with giving stuff away. I've given a lot of stuff away in return for testimonials, or just because I can. And in this village, if I do any one-to-one therapy, I charge in wine, cheese, or beer. That's all they can pay me in. That is it. I don't accept any other currency. When I say I don't take cash, they'll say, oh, do you do card? I went, no, I don't take money. I only take beer, cheese, or wine. And I've had up to a crate of wine delivered to my door from people, and I've had, sort of a couple of bottles of beer. But to me, that's because I just like to keep it light and fun with the village. That is, my dad used to do joinery and hang doors and stuff like that. And people used to pay him a couple of pints behind the bar in the flower pot, or half an ounce of old Alban tobacco. That was his, bartering. So I'm kind of like just channeling my dad a bit with that. But it's important. Price is important to be confident with that, isn't it?
I think the conversation, most therapists, they undercharge rather than overcharge. I think coming out of employment, a lot of therapists still have that employee mentality, what they're getting paid an hour. So if you're paid £17.50 an hour to do, work in a company, you often bring that with you to a therapy world. And you think, how could I charge, £80 an hour? I mean, if I was working, that would, be 5 hours work, almost a day's work. Well, you're not charging for an hour of your time, as Kevin's always said. You're charging for a result that's so transformational for people that they probably would pay more. I mean, Michael's given the example of tinnitus. How much is that worth to be free of that? How annoying and how degrading that is in life. Is that a 15 quid thing? No, it's worth much more than that because of the transformation someone will get through that, the elevation of the quality of life. So if you're still sort of in employment and, desirous to go into therapy, that is something you probably will come up at some point in your psychology, is trying to reconcile hourly payment thinking, or, you're breaking down your salary to an hourly amount. There's a market for every price, of course, but don't go too low. If you're going to go too low, you might as well just do it free, get experience, get confidence, just help people because you're compassionate. But you'll find a sweet spot for things. You'll find a sweet spot for things. Obviously, some therapy sessions which might require multi-sessions, you'll be able to build a package price into that. This is not dogmatic, but a no smoking session over 3 sessions, over 2 sessions could be something like £4.50. You see what I mean? Even I'm doing it £450. I'm not saying it should be, it must be, but you're saving people thousands of pounds, dollars, and life as well. So you've always got to be reckoning on the result. In your client statement, your marketing, it's all about what I'm offering you, the transformation in your life. People are engaging your service for that transformation, and they are happy to pay if they know what they're getting in return. So the temptation is to not go too low and sell yourself too low. All right. See, I think it's a very common thing that we observe. And once you've found your sweet spot, it doesn't mean you have to stay there. As experience grows, you can become more selective. You can work smarter for more, for less, if you like. Most of my therapy now is about £120 for what I do. and there's a market for that. Could I charge more? Probably, but I'm happy with that actually. I get clients and I'm happy with that. I mean, it's not bad for an hour's work. And as
It
time
is.
goes on, I get more experience. I actually, I really enjoy it. But I probably at this stage, I probably wouldn't do it for less than that. If I was going to do it for less, it would be zero, and it'd be something that I'd just want to bless people with, for want of a better word. There's a number of like 85-year-old people in the village. I've done free sessions because it's me. I just don't feel I want to charge them, and it's still good to help people. And I know through them a testimony and a review is going to come that will give me a paying client anyway. That's the way I look at it. It's just like any marketing. It's like a loss leader for other things.
It's got to feel fair. And when I say fair,
Yeah.
it goes both ways. You've got to be fair to yourself as well. Because there's no point in you being, um, you know, they say charity begins at home. So, and it's true, you've got to look after yourself. Because if you're just giving and giving and giving, and all of that investment, I think about all the investment of the money I'm invested over the years in coaching and hypnotherapy and everything that I've done and all of the work that I've done. You know, there's a huge amount of commitment there, and you know, you're getting a return on your investment. You know, that's what you're getting. You're not getting an hourly rate. You're getting a return on your investment so that you can then invest more to be of more service to your clients in the future, because nothing stands still. But you've got to feel peaceful. That's the other thing. You've got to feel peaceful with your price. And if you say your price, you've got to be at peace with that as well. Because if there's any battle going on anywhere, it's gonna get felt. People pick it up. It's gonna get felt if there's a battle going on anywhere, price or whatever it is. You know, you're overworked, underpaid. You know, I know people who charge £40 an hour up in Scotland, and they're inundated with work. So work in a community centre, and they're absolutely burnt out. And I'm like, that's insanity. Yeah, but if I charge more, I won't have any clients. Well, that's a limiting belief. You know, it's just that they're going where people have got no money, and they're being a martyr in my mind because they're not healthy in what they're doing. You know, and they're struggling financially in life. Crazy. But that's their choice, and that's where they're at. Right, I know time is getting on, so I'm going to share in the chat the Laverne, was you going to ask
Yeah,
something? Yeah,
can
fire it
I,
away.
basically, I'm not in the UK, I'm in Portugal.
Okay.
And so when you do your pricing, because I obviously work in euros, do you set the pricing and just stick to that regardless of what it would be, or just do the exchange rate? Do you understand what I'm trying to,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get?
I just do it as whatever's the exchange rate. I'll say, oh, it's going to cost you 120, £150 or the equivalent dollars, whatever that is right now, or whatever. Yeah. So that's all I say. You
Okay.
know, I just say it as matter of fact like that, really.
And you just
One
stick to the same pricing throughout, yeah.
Yeah.
one thing I do, Laverne, on the discovery calls, when people book a discovery call, it's one of my questions is, after asking for their information, is a checkbox. I understand that you in charge is 120 for a session. So people know. So
Mm.
if they've gone through that and said, yeah, I know that, then they're halfway there. So that there is no awkwardness about price at that point. And I think upfront, just say that's what it is. So when they're on that call, it's all done and dusted anyway.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm just putting now into the chat the link to the custom GPT. Now, in order to open it, what you'll need to do is just click on your chat GPT and open it. So it's open in the browser. And then when you click on this, it will actually open it within your within your chat GPT. It then becomes yours on the left-hand side panel of custom GPTs, and you've got it forever then. We don't know what you're doing on that. It's yours. It's totally private and personal to you. But all the programming, all of the prompts are all built within that. And so you can use it. So I'm just going to click on there so you can see it. And then what I'll do is I'll share my screen just to show you what I am actually giving you here, so you've got an idea. So let me just pull this up, and I won't take too long on this. So let's have a look. So Ewan, if you could just tell me if you can see the screen with the...
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So that's what you should see. Transformation Story Generator transforms breakthroughs into rich emotional stories using PAS, BAB, and the hero's journey. So they're basically copywriting formulas. And then it gives you a couple of little prompts here. You could say, I had a personal breakthrough. Can you help me, write a story about that? I want to share an anonymous case study. It's going to ask you questions. So you could just put in there a testimonial, and it would write a story based around that testimonial that you can share on social media. You could do it as a landing page to get people to watch a video about. So if you want to see experience this transformation yourself, then click here to leave your email to watch a video. You can use it for all sorts, but just understand that the power of storytelling is so phenomenal because, as I say, logic tells, stories sell. You can put so much into a story. But what I'm going to do here, just to show you, I'm going to put down here, I'm going to put in a testimonial as though it's, about me. Kev helped me to overcome my fear of spiders, and now I can travel to far off places and feel comfortable. Okay, that's the actual the part that I've put in there, which is the and I'm going to put beforehand. I'm going to put please write a story to convey this message using the PAS model. Okay, and then so testimonial goes in there. Please write a story using the PAS model, and it's and I'm gonna put on at the end, make it metaphor rich, just to add a little bit more. And my typos are terrible on this, but it forgives me. So it's gonna write a story, a transformational story. And then you can take something like this and then expand on it. I mean, it's putting some detail. For years, I felt like the world had invisible fences, not made of wire, but woven from silk, thin, sticky strands of fear that clung to the corners of every new place. I mean, it really is painting a picture. And, imagine putting that as a story on say, Facebook. And putting a picture on it, not too scary picture of a spider, but if you could say, does this story, give you the chills? You can overcome the fear of spiders with hypnosis, and you could use it in creative ways. You could use it as a script for something like YouTube videos. But I'm not suggesting you would use it as a testimonial, because obviously it wouldn't be true, but use it in creative ways to help you create stuff for your website, for social media. You could ask it now, turn it into a blog of 500 words. And it would basically then take the information and expand it and it'll turn it into a story. A blog can be a story, a metaphor. And it helps you convey what you do. So again, it's free. It's got programmed into it, the copywriting models. Play around with it, experiment with it. You can click on one of these little buttons up at the top. If I just renew it. Oops, give me an error. If you get me to the top again. So I'd have to start another story. But what you could do is click on one of those boxes and it'll ask you questions. Those little boxes will get you to ask you questions. You can ask it to create prompts for an AI prompt. You can get it to create images for you. but essentially it's a little storytelling AI
Very powerful
tool.
Yeah.
So I will just stop sharing that. And what we've been talking about tonight, everything that we've been sharing, we've got a much more expanded version of all of this. We're going to be delivering this every 2 weeks. So we've got a different, it's like 10 modules to it. We're going to be delivering every 2 weeks on this. If you wanted to shortcut that and you just wanted to go through some videos and watch some videos, we've got 10 videos of about 25 minutes each, looking at everything in the whole sort of in the program, which is the Practice Pro Blueprint. Now, when I say blueprint, we're not teaching you something. You have the blueprint. You've got the blueprint within you for all of this. All we're doing is we're reminding you what you already know. We're not teaching you anything new because it's all common sense. Everything we've talked about tonight has been common sense. And yet it's valuable to be reminded about that. So if anybody wanted to grab the package that we've done of this, 10 videos altogether, 25 minutes each roughly, and lots of custom GPTs and lots of other resources within there, then there's a link in the chat now that Ewan has just put in there.
I've just dropped that. That's on discount until the end of the month, actually. So it's a phenomenal discount right now. There's audio, there's workbooks, custom GPTs. There's so much stuff in there. There's like over 4 or 5 hours of video, actually, just really unpack so much detail that will really help you.
There's the client attraction challenge in there, complete, isn't there?
Yeah.
That's 2 hours, and that's 30 separate small videos that I shot, one a day, to get people from 0 to 5 clients in 30 days. That alone is going to pay for the package. The package is $99. Yeah, the whole thing's $99, and you can see it on that link there. So if that interests you, or you can turn up every other week, and you can listen to us talk and share as you have tonight, because it's been an absolute joy to see you all. And I really appreciate it. I appreciate the information that you've shared in the chat and the questions that you've asked. Any last minute questions, anything coming up for anybody that you've sort of held back on or you just want to ask, then please take this opportunity now before we close. You've all got it down. Good. Well, I hope it's given you some food for thought. And even if it's just giving you one little nugget, when I come on things like this, I'm just looking for one little nugget, because those little nuggets can make a hell of a difference to your business. Well, thank you all for being such a great audience. It's been a pleasure. And we'll look forward to seeing you in a fortnight. That's 2 weeks for people in America. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll take
Thank
care.
you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Night night.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Good night.
Thank